What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. We're live now, sir. You better be ready.
All right. We got Kaizen, the OG, the guru.
I actually, whenever I envision Kaizen, I always envision him just floating. Just, what is it? Cross-legged style, just floating?
Yeah,
I don't think
lotus
you're allowed to call
position.
it. Yeah, exactly. And I saw him pop on here. Haven't seen you in a while, dude. What's going on, Kaizen? How you doing, brother?
Doing all right. Got up and downs, life basically. Nothing unmanageable. I had my son for his 3rd birthday this past weekend. It was awesome.
Oh, nice, man. What was the theme?
Pirate stuff. So pirate ships, like pirates in space is his thing. Like astronauts and
Space
dinosaurs and
pirates.
pirates.
Heck yeah, awesome. Kaizen, anything you said ups and downs, anything you want to chat about? I'm going to grab a quick picture of all of us because we haven't been together in a while, especially you, Kaizen. Happy to see you. Anything you want to chat about, my friend, with the ups and downs? No sweat if not.
Yeah, sure. So this is something 6 years now I've kind of had to figure out how to go about. So I have a criminal record, which makes a lot of the work, if I'm working for somebody and it's a W-2, it makes it a lot more difficult than for somebody that has nothing. So I have to be that much better than anybody else that's going up for the same kind of positions. If I do 1099 W-9 work, that usually doesn't happen because they don't typically do background checks for the type of work. So recently I've had 3 different times where I've had offers sent to me for like pretty big jobs. And then if they do a background check, it's like, oh, actually, no, yeah, we can't do that.
Got it.
Because of this or whatever. But Friday, oddly enough, I got an old job hit me back up to try to come back. I'm supposed to talk with them here today. And then I literally right before this, I just had another meeting with a company for a different position. And then I have one Wednesday for something else. And Tuesday is something where I've looked up before. And I don't know if this applies to anybody in here, if it doesn't. But if you have a record, I found out from talking with other people, one thing to get into is the trades. So electrical work, plumbing, like framers, cabinet makers, masonry, things like that. Those types of jobs, normally they pay usually pretty good. Like I always heard if you get into the trades, like people that will go to like technical, and in my experience, it was kind of weird for like in high school, you had the option to go to a tech school, and then other kids were like studying for SATs and trying to go to college for stuff. The kids that went to tech school are making more than the kids that went to medical school and are doctors because they don't have student debt. They're making $100K, $200K within the first couple of years. And they have they don't have these debts that people that go to school, like if you go to school to be a doctor, that's 10 years of school that you have that you're not making money. And then you have the debt after. So it's like 15, 20 years before you're like actually seeing profit versus somebody that goes to school for electrical work and right out the gate, they're making 6 figures. So I have the opportunity Tuesday to talk with these guys that are plumbers for an apprenticeship, which is paid, and it pays the same as what I was making at the previous position I was at. So it's kind of, do I want to do that? Or if any of these other companies give me an offer, do I want to do that instead? So it's decision week, basically.
You mind if I ask you a question or two about that, Kaizen?
Sure.
So, and this is just so I can learn and the rest of the guys can learn as well. When you are going in for these interviews, is the criminal record something you are getting ahead of and disclaiming it? Or is it something you have outstanding interviews and then it's unspoken and then eventually they do the background check, which is probably an inevitability given the jobs that I think that you're going after. So what's your strategy there?
I've done both. And it really depends on a couple of factors. So the size of the company, if it's a corporation, almost always, like if it's a huge corporation of thousands of people, they're more strict. They're like black or white. It's like yes or no. You have anything pop up? No, because they have that. They have options. They have so many people applying that they can just be a lot more selective in that. If it's a smaller company, you have a lot more of a chance of actually communicating with the direct hiring manager or whoever it is that's picking the person. And a lot of the times that's easier to get an exception to the rule or to get understanding as far as like, this is something that happened in the past. I've put that in my past. This is not something that's like going to keep occurring, that kind of thing. I've found like at first, when I first started applying, it was embarrassing. So I didn't want to talk about it. And then I would wait until they would do a check and then explain it then. I tried to disclose that in the very beginning. And even then, like that was the most recent one. It drove me nuts because I disclosed it, talked to the HR person about it before they did the background check. They said it wasn't going to be an issue. And then afterwards they were like, oh no, actually. Yeah. But it's just depends on a lot of different factors. It depends on if this is like me versus somebody else, whatever. It depends on what it was, if it's related to the career that you're trying to get, the company that you're applying for, the skills that you have. There's a lot of different factors that come into play. Mm-hmm. But I would say, and this is what I'm personally planning on doing, is regardless of what happens, I'm more than likely, I'm not going to stop like continuing education. Like I've been building skills and building off of what I already have. What I would like to do is have something that I can work to generate, to put money into starting my own brand or business or a consulting firm for, like I've done programming enough at this point, but cybersecurity is something, and I didn't want to say it last night when I was watching it, but like watching like hacking things gets me excited in the way that like porn for some people get them excited. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to work in something like in a trade, because if you're following trends right now, Google just fired like 12,000 people. Microsoft fired 10,000 people. Amazon is laying off a whole bunch of their staff. Like the tech industry is getting kicked in the nuts really hard. And that just means there's a lot more competition for jobs that's going on. Mm-hmm. So something that's like, if another COVID hits, you have to have those essential jobs. So like firefighters, electricians, nurses, medical things, plumbers, tradesmen, whatever. Those things are going to have to be consistent. The tech stuff is just like ebb and flowing, the same as like the real estate market. The real estate market is going to take a hit here pretty soon. But I'd like to be able to have something set up to where I can work, build off of that, and then keep continuing education in the background as kind of like throughout the day, when I'm not working on the main task, I can build it to a side hustle or whatever you want to call it, even though I don't like to use that term, like side hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Kaizen, are you cool if we do a little round robin here? Get everybody's opinion. Are you okay with it? And just and Kaizen knows this, so I'm just saying this for people listening. This is never advice circle. It is, hey, if I were in your shoes, brother, here's what, with my life experience, what my best guess would be. And then Kaizen's job is to take whatever is useful and throw away whatever is useless to him in that particular case. So again, as always, circle, not a triangle. Jordan, I'll throw it over to you first. If you were in Kaizen's shoes, what are some things that you might consider doing? And also knowing that Kaizen to the degree that he's been participating in this team for 3 years now, I think, Kaizen, right? Something like that. Lucas said beard wax. So that's the first. Cool, Kaizen. So, Jordan, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I actually agree a lot. I actually got a tech degree for like IT stuff in 2014, and I did tech stuff for a while. But then like at that time, I really saw like tons of people going into like tech. And then a few years after I was in like the IT world, jobs were just like not gaining any momentum for money unless you're like really high up, like Cisco, certified with all the CCNE and all that stuff. So I agree that getting kind of away from the tech stuff, unless you're doing it maybe like on the side for people or whatever, like I think that's a good call. The trade stuff, I mean, we're going to be out of plumbers and electricians in the next 15 years because everyone went to school to get a bachelor degrees in like art or whatever. So like, I actually am like super on board with that. I'm trying to figure out kind of what I want to do too. So similarly, like I'm not going to go back to IT. I've talked to a few people and like, there's not really the money that I want to make to go back to it, I guess, I want to keep going up in money, not, laterally or down. So, I think growing some kind of trade thing would be cool. Although if you're into like hacking and stuff, pen testing, I don't know if that's ever going to really go out of style because everyone's always getting hacked. And pen testing, I mean, props to you if you're getting good at that because that's something I kind of struggled with. What's that? I can't quite see it.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm working on is
hell yeah.
CompTIA certification, CEH certified ethical hacking.
Oh yeah, dude. I took like 3 ethical hacking courses in school and they were super fun and super interesting. At the time, I didn't know if I had like the mindset to do it myself, but dude, if you're doing that, hell yeah, that stuff will literally always be useful because it's not a matter of if a company gets hacked, it's when they're going to get hacked. Like it's happening constantly. So there's always a need for that. So I guess doing what you're doing and kind of maybe getting away from the corporate side, because like you said, the corporate jobs are always looking at background checks. They're always doing them. And I feel like there's more in like the labor market, I think, where they don't put as much merit into that, I think, especially if they look at like how long ago it was. Like I have a friend who's got a felony, lots of felonies, but he gets jobs because he talks to the companies and like he finds places that are willing to like be like, oh, that was like 15 years ago. Like, whatever, like, don't worry about it. But yeah, he's also struggled a ton to find any kind of job in like the IT world because every company sees, a list of felonies and they're like, oh yeah, we can't hire you. So honestly, I think, I don't know how helpful it is, but doing what you're doing, honestly, I think is the right path. I mean, finding something that's going to be lucrative, but also maybe not focus so much on your past and more what you have to offer right now.
Got it. Awesome. Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode. Jordan, thank you. Mr. Ray, what do you got, buddy?
I'm struggling to find something useful to say, but because career is something I've struggled with a lot. I got the family sorted out. I've got I've been with Sarah for 22 years or 24 years maybe. And so but the career part of it has always been a challenge for me. Kaizen, I think about going to law school. With my poor grades and poor LSATs, I couldn't get into a really top school. Performed really poorly, and then failed the bar exam 6 times. That's every time I tried, and so not being a competent lawyer or a natural lawyer, or not being good at the law, or not being summoned by the universe to be a lawyer is kind of a fact baked into my journey. Okay. So let's think about the facts that are baked into your journey. When I was talking to artists this past December, I was talking about that journey and how I'm in art. And I don't know if art is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I know I'm spiritually fulfilled by talking about it with people. And I know I'm my own boss, but like he said, you know, that was the journey that you're supposed to take. And don't fight the universe. The universe always wins, right? So the journey you've been on, whether it's through your choices or stuff that was thrust on you, like there are facts baked into your profile. And so my question to you is, are you fighting the universe on your current trajectory, right? Like is that flag on your, like, whatever, that charge, whatever it was, if it can't be expunged, like, do you have to stop devoting your energy to places where that's going to just inevitably be a landmine, right? And as you all know, like the trades plus digital skills, plus which Kaizen has, plus entrepreneurial skills, which Kaizen has, like the sky's the limit as to how much money you can make. Digital skills and entrepreneurial skills combined with whatever job, you're unstoppable. So I don't know if that was useful or if that made any sense, but that's all I'm going to say right now.
Awesome. Yeah. And let me, Kaizen, you mind if I comment?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And again, this is as a brother, like if I were in your shoes, plus like fighting by your side. So, and I say this with all the love and respect in the world. What I would never want for you is to be the plumber who's like if anybody's ever worked the trades, I've been a janitor, I've been a ditch digger, I've been a landscape, I've done all the stuff. So this comes from I've been on that team before. In my opinion, I do not want you becoming the plumber who is really good at Jeopardy. Do you know what I mean? We all know that guy who's like way smarter than his trade would imply, if that makes sense. And again, that's coming from a place I've been there. The amount of life advice I've received from people, like in all of those trades has just been unbelievable. So I would say let's say if I were in your shoes, I would not want to confuse myself and commit to a linear growth pattern than an exponential growth pattern ever. So yes, I agree with what everybody's saying right now. There is an increasing opportunity in the trades, but I do not want this to get confused. Because if I didn't say this would be disingenuous to you. That has a ceiling for sure. There is no doubt about it. Unless your plan is to own the companies, like okay, I'm going to go be a plumber, then I'm going to start my own plumbing business, and so on and so on. Because I think that's an outstanding opportunity. In fact, I've got clients who have intellectual horsepower well beyond what the stigma would be of those particular trades, if you know what I mean. And because of that, they are competing in and amongst people who, to be quite honest, cannot intellectually compete with them, right? And from let's say an intellectual skill standpoint, I'm not talking about like whether or not you know facts or not. But so, for instance, several of the clients that I'm thinking about right now, they own companies in the trades, and they also know how to use technology. And that is game over for their competitors. It is not possible for their competitors to compete. And I'm serious. I can't say obviously the companies that I'm talking about, but these are not small companies. And the founders are younger guys. They're now, the three companies I'm thinking of, they're all in their 40s. And they are making way more money than a lot of my friends in their 40s in, working in corporate America. So my opinion would be that if you are going into the trades to dominate, then I would say hell yeah. And if it's you're going to have to play the game for 25 years. You're going to play the game for 25 years, then yes, you could dominate. If it's a different thing, hey, I just need a job, I need to pay some bills, I need to do all that stuff, okay, fine. If it's a temporary thing and then I pivot out of it, okay, great. My fear would be just don't ever confuse the two, right? Like, this is hard in this one direction. I keep on getting this barrier because, dude, you have so much horsepower. Like you and I have talked a lot throughout these years. Every topic that I bring up about sales, every topic I bring up about business organization, all of that stuff. So don't let there be a gap. Like they say, don't die with the music in you. Don't let there be a gap of what you are performing in the market and what you possibly could be. Because if you go that trade route for a certain period of time, most likely there's going to be a very large gap. And you could either get stuck in that and pulled, kind of like stuck in the mud by the people around you. And this could happen in corporate America too. But but with you especially, man, if you go in and all of a sudden you're going in every day and you're doing the plumbing thing, and then the guy next to you says, "Oh man, life is shit," and I can't believe what the boss is doing, all that stuff, day after day after day. And I'm sure, Kaizen, you've done the trades. If you have, that's a real thing. I know that's a real thing. I can speak to that for sure. There was no shortage of advice that I would get every single day from a guy who is not like I want to be in my life. No disrespect and no judgment, but he was not my end game. So when I was a 14-year-old working as a janitor, I had just had a funny feeling that I didn't want to be like Rick, but Rick would always volunteer his life advice to me, and also offer me to go for drinks with him. And I'd say, Rick, I'm 14 years old. That doesn't matter. Sort of thing. You get the point, right? So I guess that's my overall point. I don't want the data to also confuse us on your capabilities, if that makes sense. Yes, the trades, there's an opportunity right now, but that doesn't mean it has to be an opportunity for all of us, if that makes sense. And if you go into that arena, in my opinion, you should try to dominate that arena, not just play in it, if that makes sense. So Kaizen, what do you think about all of that?
Yeah. It's in line with because I don't before I kind of started hitting these roadblocks, I had already set out for this year. I'm I want to buy property here in Ohio. And the last time that I went to Mexico, I found out that there's multifamily units down there that I could buy for $40,000, for $25,000, for really cheap. And I would like to be able to buy these properties. And my line of thinking was, if I'm gaining this knowledge in plumbing, that's something that I can apply to doing a lot of the repairs. I can also build a network of people that are contractors that will do the type of work that I need, because I'd like to have property. I've had property before and I sold it. That when I was 20, I bought my first house and then I flipped it. Mm-hmm. So I can do this kind of stuff. It's just, I need to have the skills that I can build off of, as far as the trades, plumbing, building into these networks of people that are able to do the type of work that I need if I'm going to rehabilitate a house, or if it's something not just here in the US, but if I go to travel, I can use these same skills. And the same can be said for in tech, but like I said, with tech, it's something that I'm always going to continuously learn, but no matter what the same with fitness, the same with health, the same with finance, everything. It's a continual process of refining and learning and adding this knowledge to it. It's not something that I'm just I can't just chill. I don't have that in me. I can't okay, I'm gonna stay home and watch movies all day, or I'm gonna play video games. I can't. So I have the skills to do if I'm going into plumbing, I'm not doing it in the mindset of, okay, I'm going to work for somebody and I'm going to work for this company. I'm doing it for the idea of, I'm going to get the skills, and then within a year, 2 years, I'm going to have my own brand. And that's something that I can freelance plumbing work. I could have my own company and use the money from that to finance the real estate, the finance. If I want to start an LLC of consulting for security, whatever, but building that base and then growing from that, that's like step one that I can foresee. Okay, I've already talked to the people about it. They don't have an issue with a record. That's like a green light for me. And that's all that I've been waiting to see is like, I need a green light. Okay, 0 to 1,000. This is what I do. This is where I go. This is where I put my energy at. And then everything else is just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, that's logical. I'll add that in here. But this is the main focus.
Yeah, Kaizen, if you don't mind me.
Can I throw a wrench? So when I the universe was sending me all these signals, right, about law school and being a lawyer, and I had to make a clean break with that career path. And sure, I learned a lot of kind of soft skills, for lack of a better term, along the way. But I had to really start from scratch when it came to sales and art. And so Wes, and maybe Wes, you can help me repackage this. What I'm going to ask Kaizen is like, does he have to make a clean break the way he would be if he was going from IT to plumbing, just like in a binary sense? Or like, I'm wondering, Wes, if there are skills he has learned all along the way that, not soft skills, but are there like hard skills that he can like, that can give him a boost right away, a leveling up right away as he enters, a pay jump right away as he enters. I don't know, Wes, how you want to phrase that?
Yeah, well, I think that's going to depend on the level of opportunity and the size of the company. You know, if it's going to be a 3-person, you know, a three-man crew at the local plumber, then there's almost so much mobility, and you're going to be capped by the owner. You know, but if you get into a larger organization, then yeah, maybe there's a way of skipping the first few levels. However, one thing that I would say is I also want to be careful of our underlying assumptions that we're starting as our baseline. Right. Like, I think we all just kind of dismissed. It's like, okay, you can't get a job in tech. Well, wait a second. Like, I don't know that is a proper assumption. Now, if Kaizen says, I just don't want a job in tech, but that's up to us to kind of fight from. It's like, hey man, you just have a few arrows in you right now? Is it the wounds, the recent wounds that haven't healed yet, maybe? Or is it that you really don't like it? And that's up for Kaizen. Okay, really be introspective enough to understand that. But I would definitely question some assumptions here. I would say, number one, like, you know, I wonder if you tried a different path of selling yourself based off of the historical record. Like, you know, one thing that comes to mind for me is I would map out all the companies that I would be interested in working in, label them large, medium, small, et cetera, and then pick them. And then I would go in and say, hey, by the way, right, I'm advertising to you that I have a record. And the funny thing is, from my experience, if you can actually get to the owners, they admire a certain amount of hustle, a certain amount of risk taking, a certain amount of like that. And oftentimes you'll find that a lot of these CEOs, especially of like mid-sized companies, small to mid-sized companies, they had the same problem that you did, Kaizen, which is similar problems that I had, not just the record part, but like similar problems of like, I didn't have the connections, I didn't have the pedigree, I didn't have all that stuff. So I'm wondering, similarly for you, if you can use that as an advertisement. Hey, by the way, Mr. CEO, I'm underpriced because I made some mistakes in my past. However, most people are sleeping on me right now, not realizing my skill set. And then it goes into like the be so good they can't ignore you. So I would hate for us to skip over that piece and just write off the fact that Kaizen, he just can't get a job in tech.
And Wes, it's got to be true. That's got to be more true in ethical hacking than anywhere else, right?
Right. Yeah. So now, Kaizen, if you come back and you say, hey, I just don't want to do it. Okay, fine. Fair enough. Like, hell yeah. Like, go and do the thing that you love and you can also make money in. So I would just throw that out there as well. And then, Ray, to your point, I think a man eventually has to go beyond dabbling. However, I also do not believe in the unidimensional focus, Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, just you focus on one particular thing. I think focusing on one particular thing, yes, worked in the Industrial Revolution and widget crankers. I'm going to be the best widget cranker ever. However, I think now it's more about how do you take the handful of things-ish and put them in a cocktail and provide value that way. And that's where, like, if Kaizen goes down this road and he really does want to go into a trade, that's where he's going to kill it. Because show me a tradesperson who knows all of the stuff that Kaizen knows. He's going to know the trade. And if he doesn't know the trade, he's going to be able to he will be able to reach critical mass of understanding of that trade quicker than 99.9% of the population. Right. And in Kaizen, would you agree with that? Like, you'll be able to pick up on this stuff because he's a learner. He's a curious guy and he knows how to study. He knows how to get this stuff done. So that's a
self-starter.
Yeah. So he's going to combine the trades knowledge with sales knowledge with tech knowledge. Show me a tradesperson who's got those three things. You can't. I don't know a single one.
Wes, I think another challenge too, though, is entering the culture of the trades, right? And retaining those digital skills and retaining those entrepreneurial skills and activating them. Because I think if there are no plumbers out there who have the digital skills, the entrepreneurial skills, and like the PhD in Confucian wisdom, that Kaizen has, like, are those grapes just going to languish on the vine, right? That would be his new challenge.
Oh yeah, and dude, with that being said, Kaizen, if I were in your shoes, I were to go with the trades again, I would go in with the mindset of domination. You just take over the freaking market, and I would go and work, and then if you can do a part-time gig, either like if I were sticking in that trade area, I would start developing a brand and a campaign and sales to super high-end clients in my area, because you're going to be the guy they're going to want to work with. Why? Because you're going to follow through. Like, this is how, like, and this is just in business in general, like even white collar businesses, the amount of follow through is unbelievably abysmal, even at the highest levels. So Kaizen, if you could start a business right away in that category and then start developing using your sales and marketing tactics and skill sets, right? And then actually build like the underlying tech, you could be a one-man band, but appear like with the horsepower of a 10-man shop, if that makes sense. So that's what I would consider, bud. Kaizen, with all of that being said, what are your thoughts?
I've a lot of gold within that, and then Gunth mentioned Revit and Autodesk, which I've worked with in the past, and I didn't even think about that. That's actually genius. For me, it's something where it's like I understand that it's reverberating, because Ray had mentioned the exact same thing he said on a previous Rhomas, and I was thinking about that last week of like, am I pushing against something that is for whatever reason not supposed to happen for me? Is this something that I can't do? But also being like, I'm not gonna like stop. I'm not gonna stop taking these interviews. I'm getting hit up by recruiters, and I just have to like filter it out. But while I'm doing that, I might as well get into something that I can use long term as far as like a skill, and then make money. And like if you've watched Dad Meet, when they had Mr. Tubbs on there, and he talks about the company he's built all from plumbing and being able to fund a lot of this cool stuff that he's doing. And if you've ever, like, I had a friend growing up whose dad was a plumber, and he had his own brand, and then he hired my friend's brothers, and their whole family were able to work. If that's a possibility, and it's not like people are going to stop shitting. So like,
that's right there in my quotes
happen. And like, it's something that it's going to be around. So I might as well learn what I can from it, and then like use all the other stuff that I have. Yeah, wastewater. That's another one that I was thinking about too, like commercial side and projects. I think that's where there's a lot of money in. I've already kind of looked into it, but I have to build that base foundation first. And like, that's not a problem. I'll outwork anybody. If you put me up next to anybody or put me on a crew, I'm going to work them into the dust. So that's not a problem for me. I'm just going to learn as much as I can, and that's it. Just put my head down and get the knowledge that I can, and then use that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that if you like, it's obvious to me you're so naturally inclined with digital skills, digital technology, and software and whatnot that, like, I wonder if you should just enter the market. Like, I'm getting a lot of great ideas from looking at what Gunnar and Chupacabra are saying, where just like if you can create your own company that specializes in a software solution for plumbing, a software solution for wastewater. I brought my daughter to the dentist recently, and she did an Invisalign kind of consult, and it was all like they didn't do X-rays of her mouth or a mold. It's just like a 3D camera that they could do a couple of times, and then you've got like a 3D model of her mouth. And so, like, that's an example of a digital solution in a very traditional trade, dentistry, right? And so I think, I think that, sure, learn the basics of a trade. I don't see a problem with that, but like your company, your brand, I think is going to be strongest, and you're going to be able to leverage all of your experience so far is if you specialize in like a technological or digital solution to whether it's plumbing or whatever it is.
Hell yeah. Well, and regardless, Kaizen, I would love to personally hear your progress. Either shoot me a text or put it on the Discord. But hell yeah, we appreciate, as always, your contributions here. And especially this one, because I know, talking about your career and the bumps in the road is not an easy thing to talk about that to the world. So we appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And I appreciate all the advice and a lot of the ideas that people have thrown here. And then again, if this is just me, then whatever. But if anybody else has something like this, I want to be able to, that's something too eventually I would like to be able to do, is to provide, like, if you make a mistake in your past, it's not game over. Like, there's still stuff that you can do, and you don't need to feel like it's like the world's against you. Because that is a stigma. Like, the first few months of trying to get into the workforce, you feel like everybody has this idea of you as like lesser than them, or like a lesser than a person. And it gets to the point where it can be a lot, but that just means you have to be that much better. And then if you have that motivation, it's like you're unbreakable.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And I feel that, like, I feel my own version of that with drugs and alcohol, right? Like, get a new job. The boss wants me to take me out for a drink. Can't do that. Christmas party, I can't do that. And because of a mistake in my past. The other thing I would like to say is that we're going to be making a lot more mistakes in our future too, right? So this is a useful kind of exercise to navigate for that reason.
Well, and this reminds me of the Jordan Peterson conversation of, like, a bunny rabbit is not virtuous because it does not have the ability to harm, even if it wanted to. The only time you can be virtuous is if you are a monster, and the only way to recognize if you're a monster is if you have a monstrous past. So the way to become virtuous is if you are a monster and you choose not to act monstrously. So I think there's a whole bunch of men in the world that operate in this like this mediocre area, that they never commit such fouls to where, like, the system pushes back saying, hey, we're gonna put some handcuffs on you real quick, to let you know you've crossed the boundary, right? But now and as a result, I would imagine that you've adopted a more serious code of conduct. That's my assumption. Versus there's a whole bunch of men in this world who operate in this like mediocre area that make all of these minor infractions and errors, but the world never pushes back on them to the point where they have to get more serious about their life, if that makes sense. Same thing 100%. With alcoholism.
Yeah,
No,
I was
I'd
gonna
rather-
if I can
Yeah,
take
please.
over on that, given my expertise, like it's a blessing to hit rock bottom because then you climb your way out of it, right? A dear friend of mine hasn't hit rock bottom. He has grazed the bottom for like the past 20 years. I mean, taking so as a result, he has, after 20 years, he still has a drug and alcohol problem, alienating his wife, not showing up for his kids, right? Rather than hitting that rock bottom and then growing up as a result.
Yeah, so I think it's a huge asset. As weird as that sounds, I think all of us have passed, right? Where it's like, okay, we hit that bottom to a certain degree, and I think it's a blessing. I mean, dude, the amount of successful people, and especially men that I know that have monstrous pasts, it's the rule, not the exception, from what I've experienced. Now, I do think, yes, that there's a whole bunch of accountants, like mid-manager accountants, that don't have a monstrous past, who've done everything according to the book, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, okay, great, like they're living that sort of like, and I don't mean to be derogatory towards them, right? But they're probably not the people that you want to be like, right? So I think the past is going to be one of your biggest assets, my friend.
I've always thought about that, and I didn't know how to put that into words, but that's exactly because when you're like, if you're around people that are like literal murderers, and you're like with people that are on trial for like killing people, and you see, like, I always described it as people on the outside, like normal people that have never had a criminal record. Most of them are super soft. They're super weak. They complain about the dumbest shit that if you said to somebody that's like been in jail for years or been in prison or whatever, like they would be like, shut the fuck up. That is like, you're complaining about nothing. These people want to just go outside. Do you understand like how awesome it is to be able to go outside, how awesome it is to be able to eat the food that you want to eat and not some bullshit that you have no decision over? You can take supplements, you can exercise, you can do all these things that you have the opportunity to, but you're wasting it and you're being a fat fuck a little bit. Shut the fuck up.
You get to pick your roommate. How about that?
It's insane. It's insane to me when I see people complain about that stuff. Is like, okay, I'm jealous that you've had a life that's so easy that you find that this little insignificant thing that when you die you're not going to remember at all, that you have the time and energy to be able to complain about, versus the bullshit that has happened to like me or anybody else that they've had to go through. Like I've heard people that are like super successful that were homeless when they were 13 because their parents kicked them out, but they're like my age now, multi-millionaires, just because they had to grow up in that like shit type of environment. And that's exactly it. Like,
And Kaizen,
you run into those kind of people in it.
We can talk, like, yes, our initial instinctual reaction is that we're jealous of those people who were born with everything, but we have, if we're lucky, we learn from our mistakes and we learn from our misfortune, and we in overcoming obstacles, we become wiser and add tools to our tool belt, right? So, and we've talked about this before, that like when you're born into such comfort that you barely have to work, or you rarely have to work, or you don't have to try too hard, a lot of them don't, right? And that is an even worse, in a way, that's an even worse situation to be in, right? Well, yes, they're comfortable. Yes, they're provided a car and rent from their parents or whatever, but no problem solving skills, no life skills, right? And so that is another asset that your rocky journey definitely communicates to us and should definitely communicate to yourself.
Yeah. I also think it's important for us, and I call it a pond fish. Like, you don't want to be a pond fish, where a pond fish is just fed by its owner. It doesn't have to even fight the current. So then, which is great, but then the consequence is you look like a pond fish. You are as weak as a pond fish, that sort of thing. But I also think it's important for all of us to recognize that as you climb the ladder of success, that you run the risk, right, of removing the hardships. So I think probably all of us in this area, if a guy's listening to this and saying, well, hey guys, be careful, because I'm the guy I was born into wealth. And by the way, we are all born into wealth. It's just to what degree. We live in America, right? If we were to, like, I think we all get that message here. It's a roughly 4% probability of living in America. So that means it's roughly around a 2% probability of being a male living in America. You could not get better cards dealt to you in the history of human beings. So I think it's also important we recognize the blessings that we've been given. At the same time, there's going to be areas where it's like in my opinion, we should be synthetically manufacturing the hardships, right? That's why I go to fighting class. That's why I go and take the cold plunges. That's why I go apologize when you necessarily you might be able to get away with it. Like, go and do hard shit voluntarily every single day, because if you do not, then you will lack the muscle when the world brings those hardships on you. And if you haven't been doing those hard things for the last 3 years, then guess what? You're not going to be able to take the hardships that the world gives to you. So, dudes, thank you guys. Any other comments from you guys?
So just a quick comment on my friend, just to Kaizen's point. So my buddy was like in the Crips and stuff. He had just had all sorts of issues, and he finally cleaned up and like got out of the gang or whatever. And I met him in school, actually. He was paying for school with drug money, which was pretty great. But he was working at a moving company. And to Kaizen's point, I mean, those dudes, they hustle. He out hustled every dude. And the guy who owns the company is looking to retire. And he went to my friend David first and said, hey, I want to like get someone else to run this company. And my buddy's a partner now, and he'll be taking over the company in probably the next 5 years or so. So like he went from, nothing to getting a tech degree, getting a couple jobs in the tech industry, but he just kind of struggled with it. But then he had that second side gig with the moving company, and he just showed everyone that he was the man. And now he's going to be taking over that company in the next few years. So like anything, I mean, everything is possible,
Yeah, and I think that my closing remarks are, Kaizen, I want to thank you, brother, for fighting by our side since day one. We learned so much from you, and thank you for being vulnerable and talking about this like challenge you have. And this group works best when we are honest and vulnerable, but then we call ourselves on our bullshit and make each other accountable. So I want you to, I want to think about how I can become more accountable through this group. And on the journey you're outlining today, maybe you think about that too.
Yeah. And my final remark is, fuck you, Kaizen, because I gave like a goal of doing 15 pull-ups, and Kaizen sends me a message on Discord. He's like, yeah, I've done 35. I'm like, oh, dude, I can't. It almost to the point where it demotivated me. It's like, I will never get to 35 pull-ups, by the way. But now I'm obsessed with trying to get there. So Kaizen, thank you for that as well. But simultaneously, fuck you, like I said.
That when you were just talking about that, it reminded me of Happy Gilmore when he's standing in front of the batting cages, letting the baseballs hit him in the chest. Like, the more pain that you put yourself through, the more that you're able to take later on. It's like, I want it. When you're working out, I want that pain. Give it to me, because that means I'm going to be stronger later on down the line.
Yep. Hell yeah. All right, dudes. Love you guys. Have a great week. Great week. It's Monday. Great week. Talk to you guys soon.